join us tonight as we review the new series from Amazon Prime, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And so come along and enjoy in the fun. And remember, if you don't agree,
you're wrong.
Well, welcome along again, guys. I'm VHS Jason. There, of course, is Jason Roy Gaston in his reading room tonight, I believe.
Yes. All of these wonderful books that came from IKEA, they're all empty.
Except
Cardboard.
I feel bad for the starfish that got impaled by the looks of it and you've stuck it on your shelf.
SpongeBob, yeah. What have they done to me, SpongeBob? I can't move, SpongeBob. Help.
All right, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, mate. We both watched the entire series. First impressions. Did you enjoy what you saw?
I think that once it found its footing, it was quite enjoyable. It was just finding the footing that was hard to get through.
Oh, mate, I agree. After the second episode, I thought, oof, this is a misfire. I'm not vibing with it. So it did not have a good start, but I agree 100%. It actually, once it does get going, I really enjoyed the second half of the season.
I have to agree as well. I think it is the first half and the second half. You know, it's funny. We were talking about BoJack Horseman very briefly before we started. Kind of the same thing. The first half of BoJack's first season was decidedly mid. After that, it became pretty good. Became great, actually, in my opinion. I don't think the Mr. and Mrs. Smith quite reached that level, but you definitely see a change of gears between the first half of the season and the second half. Second half much better than the first. The first it's quite the slog. It's quite a romantic, weird little slog.
I mean, you know, and let's face it, I think one of the biggest jarring thing that I wasn't expecting out of the series is it is more focused on relationship than it really is the action. That's what's driving is their relationship throughout this whole thing. And I think that's where it kind of threw me in those first couple episodes because I'm like, hey, I don't really care. It was a weird thing because you're seeing them get to meet and all this, and they're starting to, the whole falling in love, well, the moment before they kind of get intimate to me is like, you could have done that in 5 minutes. We didn't need a whole episode on you kind of, will they, won't they get along? Didn't need it.
Yeah, and I think I'm pretty much there with you as well. I think focusing the show so much on relationships and so little on action in many places hurt the show because there were so many episodes where action took place off screen. And I honestly felt cheated. I honestly felt like the episode was being lazy. But that's, their focus was on the relationship, and the relationship just was not that interesting.
It's when they get to the snow mission that I think we start to, it's like the show starts to kick into second gear, and we're going, okay, things are happening. When they did do their action scenes, when they were in the show, though, I kind of appreciated them because they weren't actually slick. They were just shot. You know, a lot of master shots, a lot of mid shots. They didn't try to go too stylistic with it, which I liked. What I would say that I really liked about the show is they're not very good. And that was something refreshing.
No, they're not.
They're not. They obviously, they fail multiple times.
I enjoyed that because too often with spy movies and spy shows, the spies are just incredibly good at their jobs. And I like having a show where they're just not. They're not good. Especially, Donald Glover. Donald Glover's his character's all over the place. He's kind of a screw off. And I don't want to. Screw off's the wrong word. He's kind of a screw up, I guess.
He's emotional. Meanwhile, he's cocky.
He is, yes.
He's rash. There are a lot of faults about his character.
Yes. And then you got Maya Erskine, who is just, or is it Erskine? I feel like I'm pronouncing that wrong.
Erskine, but that might be a Miles
Maya Erskine.
accent.
Okay. Maya Erskine, and forgive me if I mispronounced your name, Miss Maya, who is very cold, very calculating, and just good at her job. Whenever Hi starts showing her favoritism, and Donald Glover's just all upset about it, I'm just like, no, I get it, I get it. And I'd be telling her good job too, and I'd be ignoring you because you suck at what you do.
I've never seen her before in anything. I'm sure she's been in some other shows, but I will say I thought her performance was really good. I don't think you
Yes,
can deny that.
You have seen her before, or you've heard her
Where?
before. Blue-Eyed Samurai.
Really?
Yes.
Is that her?
Yes.
Oh
She
my God, I love her
plays the
even more now.
part she's Mizu. Yes.
Oh, I love her even
So
more
there you
now.
go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. See,
No, but I thought she was excellent in this.
you were appreciating her without even knowing it.
No, I
She
thought she was
also
good.
appeared
I
in
love yeah, go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say she also appeared in the Obi-Wan Kenobi um, TV show,
Okay.
An American
I'll block
Pickle
that
with
out.
Seth Rogen. Uh,
I've seen that.
um, a show on Netflix called Pen 15.
Hmm.
Think about it. And we're also not going to mention that she was part of the Scoob movie.
Poor Scoob. Poor Scoob.
Poor
That fell
Scoob.
from the axe of Zaslav.
Yes, it did.
Now, I will say though, what I really appreciate about her in this series is that she is actually really relatable. Not personally, it's just I've known women like that. Absolutely. Unfortunately, when I was younger, dated a girl like that. Who come off very cold, and very methodical, and also very needy at the same time, and hard to read. Yeah. And I like the fact that she isn't, a supermodel. That's no offense, because she's beautiful, she's stunning. I would be honored for her to pay even me the slightest of attention, but she isn't Angelina Jolie. She isn't a buxom blonde, and I really love that.
Well, I think it's a conscious choice on the television show because they don't do up the stars. They don't
No,
shoot them through
barely any
Vaseline
makeup.
lens. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
there's barely any makeup on them, and it did make them more believable. They do the same thing with Donald Glover too, because Donald Glover's a good-looking guy, but here he's got kind of an unkempt beard. He's just
Yeah.
kind of rough looking in a lot
But
of the
come on, dude.
shots.
Even as
And
a straight guy, I go, wow. Like, that's not bad,
oh,
mate.
yeah, but he is a little rough looking in the show. Then again, so is
Yeah,
Maya
yeah.
Erskine. I do like
Yeah.
that level of believability that they come off a mission and they don't look like they just stepped out of a limo. They're tired and their hair's all mussed and everything. It does
You know,
bring extra realism to the show.
the episode with the other Smiths, where they meet the other Smiths, right? Who is, was
Yes,
it Parker Posey and Patrick Bet David? So that's a political joke there.
I don't remember, to be honest.
No, but I think it was Parker Posey was one of them, one of the two Smiths who they meet, remember? And they go, oh, well, you know what? They kind of trick him into end up doing a mission for them in that episode.
Yes,
And I love that because it is one of the time where you don't get to see the whole mission, the scene works, but they show you just little snippets of that in the jungle, don't know, he's hacking someone to death, and just the pure shock these poor people are in. And they just really lean on the fact for they just can't believe what's just happened. So, and I did like that, I did like that.
I have to admit, I do think that is one of the times that the cut away from the action actually did help, but at the same time, I wanted to know what was going on, and it just seemed like it was. And I know we find out what
True.
was going on later,
Yeah.
and maybe that's why they made that choice. But to me, it
Mm.
just felt a little lazy, like they just didn't want to show everything.
I don't think this show, and I'm going to be honest, we don't know if there's a second season because they've ended it in such a way that you could leave it and leave the mystery there, or you could go forward. I don't think they ever found their feet in this season. I would suggest if they did get a second season, Maybe they tonally work it out a bit better. But like, I think it's also worth mentioning, besides this couple, this is the scene I was talking about. They've kind of come back and seen the other Smiths afterwards, and they're like, WTF did you put us through? But let's have a look at the supporting cast in this, because we've got some great little special guest stars in this. Alexander Skarsgård makes an appearance.
Yes.
Cameo.
Yes.
Cameo, really.
Oh. One of my favorite actors of all time makes a cameo, and that is the one, the only Ron Perlman. I loved Ron Perlman in this TV show. I think his episode is one of my favorites because you feel bad for him, and at the same time you're like, you big baby, why are you being that way? Just seeing him pick up the dynamite and then that's dynamite, and he just drops it.
Yeah.
And he just looks like a little child, and it's so funny to see Ron Perlman in a role where he has the mentality and vulnerability of a man who seems like he's an absolute child.
Yeah, who's losing his bodily control.
Yeah,
he's dying.
He is, and at the same time, you do feel bad for him. And there's that line at the end where he says he wants to confess what he did, and I don't know, something about that hit me. And that's just because Ron Perlman is so darn talented at what he does. I kind of
felt cheated that we didn't find out, though.
Yeah, but that's this show. It just kind of, I don't want to say it cheats you out of things, but it doesn't show you the whole picture. I'm still hoping one day we get Hellboy 3. I know it's probably never going to happen, but I just want to see.
You and me both. Hellboy 2, man, stands up real tall for me.
He'll be on a walker.
It works for me. Be better than the other one they did. No offense, David Harbour. I do love you.
Total offense,
David Harbour. Paul Dano, who's straight away I'm going, okay, there's the big bad for the season. There's the big bad. Paul Dano. And it's not. It's a wonderful role.
It was. And I loved the explanation for what he was and what he was doing there. And I was just like, it makes sense. Everything he's saying makes sense.
Yeah,
I don't want to say what it is because I know there's friends out there who haven't seen it, but it's so funny. I laughed.
Yeah.
You said the show didn't find its. You said the show did not find its footing during the first season. I have to disagree. I think during the last 2 episodes, I think the show finally hit its potential because those 2 were the most entertaining, funny, and engrossing episodes of the whole run. Not perfect by any means, but by the standards set by this show, they were my favorite. And if we could get a season that hits that level of intensity and drama and humor, I would love to see a second season of this show.
I think so too, because I think in many ways it sounds strange, but because I feel like this season's almost a palate cleanser from the movie. Like, okay, we're doing Mr. and Mrs. Smith now. And so, we're doing a new version. It's going to take a little while to adjust, but you'll get there. John Turturro's episode, loved him as well. Seeing him always loved seeing him.
That was funny.
But that was really funny as well. Yes. Billy Campbell. Sarah Paulson as the therapist, I thought was great value as well. She was really funny. And I liked those scenes, even though they went on a bit. There's also what's being said and what's really being said. And I always love movies or shows that kind of play that. So I thought she was really good too. And of course we mentioned Ron Perlman. So they had a great little supporting cast. I think Donald Glover, pretty well, by the looks of it, he was executive producer. I believe he wrote a couple of episodes. It really is his baby by the looks of it.
I had that impression as well. And, I think Donald Glover is weird and kooky enough that if there is a second season and if he watches it and says, okay, this worked and this didn't, this worked and this didn't, I think there is a great second season waiting to be had in this show.
Yeah.
But if we don't get a second season, I probably won't be heartbroken either.
No.
It was not a classic. I think it became semi-classic by the last 2 episodes, but overall it just took a long time to get there.
I was also thinking too that what really worked in the last episode, I don't want to give away spoilers for it, But it was such a clever way to get to a resolution of a relationship. You know, in any relationship movie that you see, there's a scene where they have to talk it out. They have to confront their demons and clear everything out. And I really loved how they pulled that off with this, because they had laid that.
Funny too.
Yeah, they had laid that seed earlier on in the season that's what they were going to reuse again, if you know what I'm talking about. You know, with John Turturro, and then So no, you're right, and I mean, more I think about those last 2 episodes, it's almost it was they were the best episodes. But I do want to see a season 2. I don't think it's a show you should avoid. I think it is worth having a watch. I could see it being a show maybe young married couples get right into, because it really digs deep, and there's some real honest takes on relationships in this show. There's no question on that.
The chemistry between Maya Erskine and Donald Glover is it's there. I mean, they do make a really fun couple. And whenever they're not a couple, whenever they're upset with each other, it's very fun as well. There was one thing in the show that really made me angry.
Okay.
That was the fate of a certain character in the last episode, or I think it was the second to last episode. I was very upset that this character was hurt in the way it was, and I don't know if I can forgive this show for doing that, because it was just
yes. Well, I think this is where they were getting too clever for their good in the writing room, because it completely changed my opinion on one character. Exactly, I was on Maya's side the whole time. I'm team Mrs. Smith, right, at that moment, going, you piece of excrement.
Yep.
And the problem is, it took a while for me to go, oh, okay, misunderstanding, it's not, you know, because to me, I can put up a lot with film. I really can. But the older I get, I don't deal well with animals being hurt. That's all I'm saying. I don't do, you know. Old Jella can go F itself. You know, I don't watch that film anymore. It's like Milo and Otis. I can't even remember most of that film, but I remember walking out as a 20-year-old man going, screw this movie. And
well, didn't they murder like 12 different cats in that movie though? Well,
it's sad watching it, and then the horror is when you find out how they made it. Yeah. Actually, didn't I hear, and I could be wrong, but didn't I hear that change some of the laws around using animals? I think that was one of the movies they used as an example.
Had a little bit of a communication hiccup there.
Yeah, you're quite pixely today, my friend. How am I doing? Oh, we have internet issues.
You're fine.
Edit this later. So basically, all in all, Jason, it's a watchable show. It's not a memorable show, but again, I repeat, I think it's still worth checking out if you're curious.
I have to agree. I don't think that it ever reaches just amazing pinnacles. I think the last 2 episodes are definitely highlights that shows what the show could be. But more than anything, I think it demonstrates a potential that it has not quite made it yet. If there's not a second season, I'm not going to mourn. But if there is a second season, I will watch just to see where it goes.
Well, then, Jace, we've got nothing left to do now except give our review, rate the show that we reviewed, and we do that with our Dazza, with our Apathy Bear, and our Croc. So the Croc means Apathy Man means and then we have Dazza, means thumbs up. So in saying that, I'm going to give you my vote. This was a hard one for me because it feels very middling, but I think it deserves better than that. So it just sneaks in for me, and I'm going to give the show a Dazza. I'm going to give it a thumbs up just by the bare minimum, but I can't say that it's horrible. So that's where I'm going. How about you, Jace? What are you going for?
It's the same for me. It's a balancing act between meh and eh.
Yeah.
It is not a horrible show. Never. It never becomes horrible. I think that the worst I can say about it is that the first few episodes are kind of dull, but I do think it's saved by the last few episodes once they switch gears and kind of find their footing. And so, just barely, I'm going to squeak a Dazzer by. Just barely. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah. Absolutely. I almost feel like I need to create a little kind of a mini-me version of Dazza for shows like this, eh? Little mini-me one. So, but yeah, that's
Just
what we
like
thought,
Dazzer,
guys.
only 1/8 its size. Look at me, I'm trying to enjoy a freaking TV show here.
Do you want a hot pocket? Maybe an Eggo?
Needed
Oh my
cat.
god, those movies.
The cat's just looking at me like,
That's a series of films on a side note that people either just obsessively love or they just don't like it. And I obsessively love those movies.
I have loved the Austin Powers movies since I saw the first one, and I just love them.
Amazing.
I could quote every single thing Fat Bastard says because he's my favorite character, and he's
a lot you can't really say on
surprise.
That's probably all you can say on this show, to be honest with you. Otherwise, YouTube will probably, copyright us or strike us down for poor language.
I was on radio whenever those movies came out, and so we were trying to talk about it, and we were like, yes, there's this man, his name is Fat. Well, so we started calling him the morbidly obese gentleman of questionable parentage instead.
There you go. That's great. All right, guys. Well, you know what? We do movie reviews, and you can go and check them out on our other show on the Jason Roy Gaston channel, where all the fun lives. And we're if you watch us this week, I'll give you a hot tip. We're reviewing Friday the 13th. No, the 2009 one, but you can check this out on the VHS vault. Also, you can check out all the other wonderful stuff on the channel, including Jason Watches. But the most really cool thing about being part of the Jason Roy Gaston channel is you can support it by getting on Patreon. Isn't that correct, Jason?
Yes, please visit the video description below to find out how you can get on Patreon. You can support us for as little as $5 a month because we are a cheap date. And there are all 100%. Kinds of exclusives. You get exclusive videos, exclusive pictures. Nobody else gets to see them. Yes, there are feet pictures if they are requested, but you have to be on a certain tier for those. So,
there you go. Pretty gnarly toes, by the way.
And my goodness, absolutely succulent.
Can also check us out too over on a completely different channel called Captain's Quadrant, where you'll see us. Well, you see this man every week, but you'll see me occasionally too, talking Trek with our good friend, the Captain Joe Dove. He's best captain so far I've served under. So even though you know my opinion on Kirk lately, I'm suspect about him.
He's making us watch The Storyteller from Deep Space Nine this week, and I cannot forgive him for that. As Miles O'Brien, as Miles O'Brien would say, Jesus.
It's so bad that even Miles O'Brien puts you to sleep in this episode. It's horrible. Also, you can check me out every other week on the Pop Culture Spread channel, where my other Aussie buddy, Rick, there, looking rather dapper. And we just talk movie news and what's going on in the world of film and the behind the scenes, what Mr. Bob Iger's up to, what the other heads of the studios are up to. That's it. So, but most importantly, stick around on the Jason Roy Gaston channel. There is so much good stuff to watch. When you finish this show, drink a lot of coffee, stuff yourself away for a week, and catch up on all the wonderful entertainment. And we'll see you guys next time. If that doesn't lure me in, I don't know what we'll do. We'll have to go house to house. Make our own version of the Watchtower book. Have you heard of the Jason Roy Gaston channel?
Would you like to hear the good news about the kingdom of crap that awaits you?